Hello, I'm Drake. Welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real metaphysical and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, we're going to continue our series on the Goetia with the 33rd Spirit of the Goetia GAAP. Okay, now this has been a fun series, and I know some of you have been eagerly awaiting. And yes, I've missed a few weeks. I apologize, but we are through the holidays. Hopefully, things will get back on track. And as you all probably noticed last week, we have started a series with the Kabbalistic angels. Some people line those up with the Goetic spirits. If you want to know more about how those might line up, I may consider doing a video in the future. For now, just know that they actually go numerically. So you can literally just match the Kabbalistic angel 1 up with the Goetic spirit 1 and straight down. Okay, that's the easiest way to do it. Now, Gap, his appearance. Um, in human shape, the Goetia with Gap. Okay, this one. Oh, okay. We've had some that were very, 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 very vague, and didn't have next to anything. Now, this one I will actually say bothers me a little because it gives a description, but it's a description that to me, it's more of a description of action rather than a description of what the crap I'm looking like. And yet they're calling it an appearance. And there's been some debate on this one, but before I get into that, let's go ahead. The appearance that is commonly listed is in human shape going before them as a guide. That's it. Now, okay, I might be getting a little harsh here because it's human shape. It's going before you. It's out in front of you as a guide, guiding you kind of concept. And that is pretty cool. And it is a little bit more, but I just feel in some way, somehow, this could have been described better. But then what's a guide? Guides are very ambiguous, but they are out in front. They're showing you where to go. They're showing you the path. They're helping you get to where you're going and reaching your goals. So maybe I'm a little harsher. And I know a lot of magicians who laugh at me and think I am. Hopefully you're laughing at it too. But that's the only appearance they give. That being said, at least for me, when I've worked with Gap has never shown up in what I would predict or think of somebody I want to be guiding me. Like I have worked with guides, I have worked with trailblazers, I have worked with long hunters, I've worked with trappers. Yeah, never shown up in anything that looks that way. Like it just hasn't. Normally they show up, it's very professional looking images that he Gap presents to me, or the closest I've gotten is like kind of a rougher style jean or slack with no shirt kind of individual, usually male, largely male is what I've always gotten. And I asked a few ladies that I know who's worked with Gap if the male image has shown up for them, because I kind of suspected it might be more of, switch that based on the person. And they said it always showed up male for them too. Um, but I have on occasion, rare occasion, seen Gap show up as female. None of the magicians that are ladies mentioned a female, so I can't comment on that. I should have asked them. I forgot. You'll forget happened to me. All right. So there is that. Now, the common associations listed for Gap are the rank of president. The metal most associated with Gap is Mercury. The planet most associated with Gap is Mercury. Color, orange. And the element most associated is air. Pretty cool, huh? And again, if you enjoy this kind of content, consider giving us a subscribe, turning on notifications so you're notified anytime we release a new video or go live. And also consider supporting us. We do have a community over at Locals. You can find the link below or go to workingdragonmystic.com. you'll see the Working Dragon Mystic Layer community. Join us there in the layer, where we do have a ton of supporter-only content, from videos, early access to classes at the school. We also actually do live workshops where I will go in and talk with you all and on specific topics and workshops, and even some skill training and whatnot that we do. And all that content is for the one single price of supporting. There's no additional cost to any of that content. And we are currently trying to reach a goal of 50 people, 50 supporters over in the layer. So consider, even if you're supporting us on YouTube or Patreon, consider maybe moving your support over to the locals community, because lately Patreon and YouTube have not been allowing us to do certain things, and have been actually removing some of the things we've done to help support, to help repay our supporters. Yeah, I think I said that right. Yeah, okay. So consider moving over there, because as soon as we hit that 50, we unlock more tools to be able to do more for the community. And our goal is to grow this community. Our goal is to be able to supply you with more and more and more information without restrictions. And that is honestly what that layer is all about. It is about driving the mission of this occult metaphysical knowledge without limitations as far as we can. And we need your support to do that. All right. I yammered longer than I meant. I apologize. Let's move on, shall we? Okay. Now, what are the areas that you could reach out to GAP and work with GAP for? Let me have a little coffee here. Coffee keeps the dragon running, you know what I mean? Or at least this Drake. All right. So the original purpose listed within the Goetia for GAP was, has the power to render men ignorant or to give them great wisdom and knowledge. Okay. That one, unlike some of the others we've seen in the Goetia, that one's pretty straightforward. That sounds very applicable even to this day and age. I can see how that would be applicable. Perhaps we don't need as many stupid people. I know a lot of people out there today probably think there's more stupid people than wise. And it could be subjective, but I'd definitely be in the category of thinking we need more intelligence and less ignorance. But, you know, hey, different strokes for different folks. But I do think that one's a little bit more straightforward and applicable to the real world. But let's break this down. Let's go into the things that myself and other magicians have found that is a little more modern, a bit more in depth on that. Okay. Now, the first one is to make a named person confused, sleepy, or unable to concentrate. Okay, this can actually be pretty useful. If you have a particular individual who's a thorn in your side, or a problem, or a competitor, maybe you're competing for a promotion, maybe you're competing on getting assigned a specific project or contract or any of that. Maybe you got a particularly bad employee that you're attempting to get them fired for whatever reason. If you can take that person, make them confused, sleepy, or unable to concentrate, you can affect their overall performance in practically everything in life, also being that thing that you're competing with. Because if a person is confused, sleepy, and unable to concentrate, they are going to have trouble with any projects they're doing. Does this seem a little mean? Yes, it does seem a little mean to some people. But at the same time, if you want something to give you that competitive edge, are there people out there who would do so easily without hesitation? Absolutely. Now, me, I prefer to get what I get under my strengths. I wouldn't want to affect the other person so much as I want to lift me up. That's my personal take. So this one, I haven't really used it in anything of that category. Now that being said, I have used it in the case of, I found out about bullies or people who were harassing other people, and I did apply it to them to keep them in a state of confusion and unable to concentrate, which allowed that person to get relief from the people and actually cause them to lose sight of the people and forget about the person and focus on other things in life, as opposed to pestering those people, and help iron out the situation and bring it to a conclusion. I have used it in like that, and that's probably the way I would recommend most people use it. But you use it as you see fit. It's your path, right? No judgment here. Of course, then the next one is conjure fierce hatred between two named people. Booyah. Boy, that's straightforward, ain't it? You need two people, either they're getting too chummy or you just need them. You don't want them talking. You want to put some aggression between them. GAAP can definitely do that. GAAP can definitely drive a wedge between two people. Um, I've seen this one work to great avail. I really have. I've seen it absolutely shatter relationships. I will say this, though, be careful with this one because free will is always a thing. And if there's not something to authentically build that hate on, if it is a truly fully artificial hate, their free will is going to see that and it's going to bump up against that and it's going to poke and prod and it's going to find the cracks in it. And if they start seeing through that, they're going to realize they're upset for no reason and they can make amends. And making amends, though not a bad thing, like 75% of the time, the people know there was an outside influence. Okay. And if they know you benefited from this or you wanted this and you're a practitioner, you may end up in their crosshairs as the number one suspect of who messed with them. So be mindful of that. That's all I'll say is just be mindful of that. The next one is to bring dissent to a group of people. Same thing here. You're trying to stir the pot, get a group to be distracted. We've all known groups or individuals or whatnots that if you could just slow them down, distract them, get them to disagree, you could probably make a little progress. Well, Gap can help you do that by helping you sow a bit of dissent in there. Again, use wisely. Yeah, use wisely. This one, however, it's less likely that anyone's going to recognize that someone else did it. Could they actually break? Yes, if there's no real true reason for them to have that dissent in there, they can shake it off, obviously. But with it scattered over such a large area, it's less likely they're going to be like, whoa, hold on, somebody completely magicked us up in this joint. Somebody, yeah, who is it? It's less likely, far less likely. Well, I'm never going to say impossible on that, but it seems unlikely. I've never seen it happen yet. Okay. And of course, the one that is on the bottom and the one that most people I know of probably reach out to Gap for, and I don't think any of us will be surprised to cause a named person to lust after you. Straightforward. That's it. Honestly, most people are always trying to get a date or trying to get laid or some crap or one night stand. And they are looking for a quick and easy fix. No judgment. And Gap is one of the entities a lot of people have reached out for that. Now, I will point out here, this does say lust. Now, that gets the door open. That gives you an easy ability to start a conversation. Is that going to develop a long-term relationship? Not on its own. It will not. Again, this is going to require you to, once that emotion is there, once that person's feeling that, once that person's thinking that, you still got to go in, you still got to do your part, you still got to make yourself presentable, and you got to treat them well and make that situation develop into something more. That being said, so what you're looking for will depend on how much effort you need to put into it, and also depending on the person, because just because a person may be lustful to you, if you have habits or traits that are buzzkills, turnoffs, whatever you may say, when you approach them, those things are going to kick in. And it's very likely they're just going to think, what was I thinking? Why was I even thinking they would be a good choice? So there's a balancing act here. It's, free will and personal choice is still a thing in there. This is just if you're honestly trying to pursue a relationship, it could help, but it's not an end all be all. And me personally, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to love, anything in those categories, I'm a big believer in if it isn't natural, if it isn't mutual, if it isn't respectful, it's pointless, useless, and honestly, it's a little creepy. So that's my 2 cents on that. Um, all right. Oh, another thing, in case you haven't heard, um, if you are interested in working with entities and evoking entities, our evocation course has released over at workingdragonmystic.com at the online school. We have a full video course on focused entirely on evocation, covers all levels of evocation, contact evocation, astral evocation, full evocation. And it comes with a complete spirit codex. So there's over 100 entities at the time of launch. And as we move forward, more entities will be added to that codex. Okay. So if you are interested in evocation and you've been wanting to learn more about it, consider going over there and checking that out. All right. Okay. Where were we? We discussed that was the last thing for the main areas most magicians would agree on. And then you got the sigil. Okay, we're supposed to show sigil. What did you say? We get that up here on the screen. There it is. This one's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. All right, and then we get to the because everyone likes to hear about the and I think you all enjoy me stumbling over these. So we're going to get a little coffee here. And I'll try and make sure it's up here on the screen so you can see it spelled out. Don't have to rely on just my pronunciation. All right. Let's see here. I practiced it a little bit, but I already recorded something else, so I'm a little rusty. So let's see. Dian Ane Tasa Gap. Dian Ane Tasa Gap. Dian Ane Tasa Gap. Dian Ane Tasa Gap. Dian Ana Tasa Gap. Da Ana Tasa Gap. Okay. There it is. I hope you do better with it than I do. I'll admit this is not an I use. It's not. It is the most common one out there. It's just one. Every time I've attempted to use it, I stumble over it to the point where it just messes with my evocation. So I personally don't use this one because if the incantation takes more focus away from the ritual, I find it useless, and that's just how that is. But there it is if you wish to give it a try. Now, my personal experiences with this entity. Honestly, every time I've worked with Gap, I've enjoyed working with him. I've never had any one major issue with them. I've used most of these powers here, I would say, most of those abilities. Like that last one, honestly, haven't used it. And I explained my reasonings for that earlier. Um, I have used all the others to different varying levels of success. And again, I gave notes on those, make sure there's actually something to feed on, make sure there's something there because they could see through the cracks of it, those kinds of things. And if you can build it off of something, I have found it to be massively effective. If there's really nothing to build off of it, I've found it to be temporarily effective for I think the best one I've seen, it's usually averaging around a month, but the best one I think I have on record when I looked it up was about 3 months before they saw something was wrong. So 3 months gives you a lot of time to get a lot done if you're actually attempting that. Um, the confused, sleepy, and unable to concentrate. This one I have actually particularly used like I got a lot of stubborn friends who often find themselves in need of rest where they need to recuperate doctor's orders and they get antsy really, really fast. So I have reached out to Gap more than a time or two to hit them with some sleepiness, keep them tired, keep them, resting. I don't want them exhausted because that could slow their healing. I want them actually sleeping and resting. Actually, that's one of the bigger reasons why I've used that one. And Perhaps that might be the main one I've used actually. Um, I think that might be the one that I use the most in all honesty there. So, um, but another thing I have done is, that first purpose where it says give them great wisdom. I have reached out to Gap to help me and others with wisdom and making wise decisions in different situations. And in truth, I have found Gap is very, very good at that. Now, I was a little bit floored when, amongst the list of things that people normally turn to Gap for, very few people talked about wisdom and knowledge. And that irked me a little, but it might say a bit more about humanity and where we put our value. Me, I do value wisdom and knowledge. So more often than not, when I'm reaching out to Gap, it is somewhere in that wisdom and knowledge category. Um, and in those areas, I have found Gap to be extremely helpful in my practice and in my path. So even though you don't often find those in his modern bullet points, it is in the Goetia. It is one of the things that is listed as his big thing to do. And I would encourage you to lean into that and work with Gap on gaining wisdom and knowledge and developing oneself in those areas more so than actually the things he's probably better known for. That's just my 2 cents. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Drake, and until next time, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.